Hey, it's Medium Jenny Lee, and I'm here with the Woo Woo book review, number 6. I just finished this book. It's Window to the Past, Exploring History Through ESP by Hans Holzer. If you ever watched the Holzer Files, you know exactly who this person is. And if you're probably over the age of 50, you might know who he is anyway. So I found this book in a used bookshop in their, like new age section. And I was so excited because I love the Holzer Files. And actually, Cindy Kaza is one of my medium teachers. I've taken many classes with her. And so finding an original Hans Holzer book from the 60s was a big deal for me. It came out in 1969 from Doubleday and Company. And, it's the original book jacket and everything. It cost $5.95 in 1969. There you go. I think I paid $10 for it. It was a library book. I don't know in what library, but here's the original library card, the checkout card. It was checked out 4 times, 2 times in 1970 and 1 time in 1971 and 1 time in 1972. I really wish that more people would have read this. This poor lonely book. And then who knows where it's set around from 1972 until now. But I'm glad that I found it. And there he is. There's Hans Holzer. Looking dapper in 1960 whatever. So if you're not familiar with who Hans Holzer is, he is unbelievably important to the paranormal community. Like, way more important than I even realized. Like, I knew that he did ghost hunting investigations in the 60s and 70s, etc. But I didn't realize that he was kind of like the guy. He was called the Ghost Hunter. He was the Ghost Hunter, and he has a book called The Ghost Hunter. And then here, fast forward to the 2000s, and we have the Ghost Hunters show, which revives this topic that, has been popular over time here and there, starting with the spiritualists and whatnot. But wow. So this book is all about ghosts and mediums. 2 of my favorite things. And history. Let's not forget history. It's got history in the title. It's about history. So what he does throughout this book, there's 10 chapters. I think the first chapter is an introduction. The last chapter is like a wrap it up thing. So there's 8 chapters of 8 different places, 8 different stories, 8 different historical people, places, and events over time in different places. And what he does is each chapter tells history about the location or the people, or the location and the people, depends on what's going on. And then he tells the ghost experiences, the paranormal experiences of that location based on the witnesses and experiences of the people who live there or own the place, or even other historical paranormal experiences people have had that he's able to look into. And then, just like in the Holzer Files, of course, he has a medium go to the location. And one of the cases, he has 2 different mediums go to the location. And he has the mediums do their thing. So some of them just get impressions, and they feel things, hear things, see things. But the main person he uses throughout the most of these is Sybil Leek. And the way that she does her medium stuff is through trance. She'll go into trance, the spirit will come in, the spirit will talk. So Hans Holzer has a conversation with the spirit, and then Sybil Leek doesn't remember anything that happened. And Hans Holzer would record it on his tape recorder or whatever. And then he'd go through the investigation with the medium. And then he would go back and research what the medium gave him based on the historical evidence. And it's just really, really fascinating. So the different chapters in this particular book, places that he goes to, is he looks into the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, which they go to, oh goodness, what's the place called? Surratt's Tavern, which is in Maryland. And each chapter has a little illustration here. So this actually is one of the investigations that they do on the Holzer files in season 2. They go to Surratt's Tavern. And the really interesting thing about this is that in 1960, whatever, the medium gave information that they were never able to figure out, that Hans Holzer was never able to figure out. And when they do the story in the Holzer files in the year 2019 or 2020 or whatever year that was, 2021 even, they're able to figure it out. And what Sybil Leek channeled was not wrong. They just couldn't figure it out then. The puzzle pieces were there, but they couldn't put the puzzle together in the right order. And then between Dave Schrader and Cindy Kaza and their crew, they were able to put the pieces that were there together. And it was amazing because as a medium myself, a lot of times we'll get information that the sitter does not necessarily understand, or it doesn't resonate, or they're not really sure, and when we're learning how to be a medium, we're told not to question those things. Don't think that that means that it's wrong. You have to trust that the information you're getting is correct, even if you're interpreting it incorrectly, or the person does not necessarily know that the information is correct. And this is one of those cases where it took like 50 years for them to actually figure out that her evidence was correct. The information she got was correct. It took that long. I mean, these people are dead. Sybil Leek is dead. Hans Holzer's dead. The people that were doing the original investigation died before they ever figured out that the information they got was correct. So to me, that really just proves that as mediums, if that's something that you are practicing or do on your own, that you also do, trust the information that you get. Don't question it, because Spirit's not wrong. We're just not figuring it out. Anyway, so then the other chapters, this chapter 3, they go to England and they investigate the story of Nell Gwyn, which I have no idea about because that's some British history I was not familiar with, and that was really fascinating. Turns out that the building where Nell Gwyn's ghost hangs out in the 1960s ended up being a strip club. Kind of fitting if you know anything about her, which I didn't until I read this book, but look it up. Interesting stuff. And then the next chapter was Who Landed in America First, which, good old Christopher Columbus gets all the credit. But, yeah. We already knew that the Vikings had come here way before that. But there's other things, I think, that we are still going to be discovering. And actually, there's another woo-woo book I will be reviewing at some point. It's all about that, but we're not going to talk about that yet because I haven't read it. But that's chapter 4, Who Came to America First. Very interesting chapter about some Vikings that got stuck in Cape Cod, and there's evidence that that really happened. Chapter 5 is Camelot. Did Camelot really exist? Where was it? King Arthur really exist? And it looks like the answer to that is that King Arthur really was a person. But all the stories we have of him are kind of mixed up in different time periods and stuff. So the place where they go is also clearly in England, at South Cadbury. That was a pretty interesting chapter. Then the next one is about the ship, the USF Constellation, which is harbored in Baltimore. I'm pretty sure it's still there, and I think I might have seen it in person when I was like in middle school and we went on a field trip to Baltimore. In the 60s, they were just starting to renovate it, and when they did their investigation, it was pretty much just the skeleton of it. But that was a really interesting chapter and very interesting history about this particular ship. And Sybil Lake picks up on a lot of very strange information about that one. Some interesting ghosts hanging out on there, on that ship. Then we have Merling, which is in Austria, and that's about Prince Rudolph of Austria and his lover and what happens to them. Once again, a story I think I might have heard a little bit about, but I didn't know a lot about, and yeah, some crazy stuff happens there. And the evidence points to that it was maybe not what they said it was. So, little drama. Then we have a colonial soldier. And this one, I'm trying to remember where this one took place. I can't remember what place this one takes place in. Oh, in Philadelphia, the old Byberry Meeting House near Philadelphia. That was like not a famous story, just a colonial soldier guy who's kind of just hanging out there, and had some different history about the Revolutionary War that I was not familiar with, as in there were people from other countries here fighting as hired guns, you know. I didn't know that. And then the last chapter before the very end of the last little bit where he wraps it up is about Aaron Burr, which is a revolutionary guy who somehow I also didn't really know much about. I'm married to a guy who is all about American Revolutionary history, and for some reason I don't know really anything about Aaron Burr. But that story was really fascinating because he went down as being a traitor, but it sounds like that wasn't necessarily true. And I guess people who have seen them, perhaps, I imagine that if the people who have watched the musical Hamilton might know who Aaron Burr is, because I imagine he has to be in that story. I haven't seen it. I know that's horrible, and you can yell at me in the comments if you need to that I haven't seen Hamilton. But he's the one who shoots Alexander Hamilton in the duel, and then he gets blamed for murdering him, but it was really a duel. Anyway, so Aaron Burr's ghost was hanging out in this Cafe Bazaar in the 1960s, which was part of the stables of where his property was from his second wife. And this one was very strange because he was trying to use an alias and is talking about French stuff, and he's calling for his daughter who got lost at sea, like for reals. And that was another really crazy story. So lots of fun stuff in here. I'm not sure how many copies of this book still exist out there, so I don't know how many printings of it there were, but if you ever run across this one, or maybe you can find it, you know, on the Amazon or whatever, it's really cool reading. Cool. It's a really cool read. And I would definitely be up for reading some more Hans Holzer books as I find them or go searching for them. And who doesn't love this cover, right? Eyeball with the light trails all over it. That's a good 60s cover, isn't it? So yeah, this book wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. Because from the description, it kind of made it sound like it was kind of, in some ways, more like remote viewing of historical events was what I was thinking that it was going to be. And in some ways, I guess, it, you know, part of it is. But it was really more like the way that paranormal teams investigate. The good ones. The ones that do their historical research. It's more like that. So here he is doing the stuff in the 60s. Fascinating to me. So anyway, that's the Woo Woo book review number 6. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And I'll be back with some more Woo Woo book reviews. So keep an eye out for those. See you later. Bye-bye.